And I'm doing my presentation on Facebook, which is a lot like Twitter. It's an online social networking site which is free for us all to use. It's a good form of communication. You can post photos, have wall posts, have direct messages to people, and you can just talk to all your friends and family that way. And as of 2013, there was over 500 million users who use Facebook today. So with a show of hands, how many of you have a Facebook? Exactly. Research showed that 85 to 99% of the people on Facebook are actually college students, which is why we all tend to use it. But why should teachers be using this in their classrooms? For one reason, students encourage it. In a study done by Reynolds Junko, only 15% of students said they'd have a problem with their teacher using it because they would feel like their privacy was invaded. And it was actually reported that students were more enthusiastic about having Facebook in the classroom than the teachers actually were. But as we talked about before, it's not enough to just use Facebook in classrooms because it's cool. We have to have other benefits from using it. And one is that it enhances student learning. Some argue that it could be a distraction because if students are using Facebook in class, they might be looking at other things. But it was reported that students who use Facebook have higher motivation and levels of learning. And teachers also like using this because it does enable shy students to ask questions. So if they don't want to raise their hand in class and ask in front of everyone, they can go home and go to their teacher's Facebook and message them and ask them a question that way. It's also easily accessible. So the majority of us are already using it regardless. And lecturers have reported that it's easier and quicker than looking for a student in class. So if they're in a lecture hall of 200 students, rather than looking in for a specific student to ask them something, the teacher can go home, look for the student, and then message them that way. And although this is a lot like email, it's more likely that a student will check Facebook before they check their email. So how many of you think you check your Facebook more often than your school email during the week? Exactly. So if it's a weekend and your teacher has to email you about a due date, it's more likely that you'll see it on Facebook before you see it in your email. So how can Facebook be used? One example is in discussion groups, which is where a teacher can create one, have all the students join it, and then they can post questions about upcoming due dates, or the teacher can post to it. In my sociology class last fall, my teacher had us write our own tests. So at the end of every class period, we would turn in a question, and then she created a Facebook page for us where we could post the questions for the test as a study guide, so we could look at that, and that was really useful. The problem with that is the teacher has to be sure to be joined in on the message board to make sure that he or she can monitor what's going on in that. Another way it can be used is for teachers to have their own pages. A concern with this is that it is kind of like a self-disclosure problem. If a student is looking at a teacher's personal page with their wall posts and photos, it can be invasive to the teacher. So a way to separate this is that a professional page and a private page, and make sure, like Mr. Walker's teaching page, that they only use that for their teaching and they can post due dates and upcoming things like that for that. So overall, Facebook can be beneficial in classrooms, and although it's like email and other things, it can be useful in different ways.